Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before the video begins, I just want to say thank you for getting me up to 300 subscribers. We broke that milestone not too long ago, and we are going to celebrate it. But for right now, I just wanted to make a small video before we do anything else, and try to make this a little more often of an occurrence to be a little more consistent with my uploads. In any case, let's go on to the video. Tactical games have been getting more and more popular as of late, with modes such as DMZ, Rainbow Six Siege still holding on, Stalker 2, and others on the horizon. It seems the idea of having slower, strategic, and risk-driven games are becoming popular. Not too long from now, we're expecting to get another edition of the Ghost Recon series. The last time we heard about it was codenamed Over. That could really benefit from this shift in the shooter space. And while I know the game is well under development and I don't expect any major changes to the current formula, I can still imagine all the different possibilities a game like this can have for an online mode. Something that would be Tarkov-esque with multiple missions, extracting hostages, gaining reputation, and even playing scenarios on the opposing side with sabotage and smuggling missions, giving the game a way to tell the story from both perspectives. There's a lot that could be done, but for right now I want to point out a gameplay feature that was present in a previous Ghost Recon game and see how it can work for the more standard co-op and story-based game mode. One that may find its way into a sequel or into other games if we continue to see this trend growing. I was first introduced to this gameplay feature in Ghost Recon Jungle Storm, and it's been used in a few other games besides that, where you take control of two different squads and give out orders, allowing you to tackle the objective from a different perspective and having a team ready to blindside any resistance. Back then, being so young, I would get a headache trying to organize two AI squads and getting them in position, but in today's gaming space where controls are more streamlined, responsive, and easier to sort out, a system like this might be a lot easier to use. But to pair this, I'm not just talking about squads that are powered by AI, instead it's to have two separate squads of 4 or more players, in which every member is controlled by a player. As of late, these games have been condensed down to just one team of 4 or more players. While that does work well for any co-op based game, I feel it kind of limits the potential a game like Ghost Recon can have. If the trend of more intricate and tactical games continues, I feel it would be a benefit to include a second team that could tag along, but at the same time make it so each team does not have to rely heavily on each other to complete each mission. Adding another team into the mix can make the game feel more alive, being able to coordinate attacks on the fly and confuse the enemy AI. But how would this work in a Ghost Recon game? Well, some things would have to change. While Ubisoft continues to shoehorn every game into an open world design, I feel it would be better for Ghost Recon or similar games to have smaller, condensed zones for multiple missions. Ghost Recon Breakpoint's second story campaign, Motherland, had split the objectives to be in one section of the map, instead of having to go back and forth through the entire map. In my opinion, barring a special mission or two here and there, I feel that is the better way of pacing and creating a Ghost Recon type game. So if a system of having two teams were to work, I feel it would be best to keep the map segmented, allowing players to help each other out while they're in the same zone. Even with the map being split, the game could have built-in ways to allow players into other zones beforehand, such as escorting civilians or VIP, allowing you to hop around blind spots, taking out outposts, and perform actual recon. This could also end up allowing you to sequence break the game to some degree, but on purpose, obtaining higher powered weapons and attachments that you could bring back to your original zone and have an easier time rolling through the objectives. Eventually, once all zones are unlocked, the game could then transform into a second phase, and now you have your more typical open world missions and allow players more freedom and ways to complete the old and new missions, giving the game a breath of fresh air and a reason to continue playing after you've done everything else. In short, make the open world aspect a reward later on in the game, instead of allowing players full access from the start. The risk of failing a mission just doesn't seem to be that prevalent in current Ghost Recon games. If things get too hot, you jump in a car or a helicopter and escape, whereas with this system you'll have to either complete or forfeit the mission and restart. If you fail and get killed by an AI, you could lose access to some of your gear or attachments, such as a high-quality night vision goggle, which you can prompt a small side mission to retrieve it if you wanted to. Something that would give players a consequence but also value in having more to do other than brute forcing missions. Add to that other side missions in the area that could potentially make a required mission a little easier to tackle, rewarding players for exploring and taking their time with each zone. These zones could be completed with 2 teams of 4, with each one completing their own objectives, or teaming up through in-game voice chat and making sure things get done and both squads stay alive. Think of it like an open queue, but you don't have to interact with that second team. This would also help open things up, so if you have a group of 5 or 6 people, you would still be able to play together, At the same time, this can all be entirely optional, so your team doesn't have to get trolled by someone else. Maybe it's just you and someone else playing the game, and that's fine. Have a second squad be made up of AI. Every time you clear a position, just bring your AI squad in to do cleanup, pick up intel, disarm bombs, escort civilians out of the area, etc. Obviously, we don't want the AI to be doing the heavy lifting. I would even go as far as not letting the AI revive players. But having that option of AI doing the cleanup sounds good to me. Let me move on to the next objective while my second team secures the area. With games having streamlined control schemes, it shouldn't be that difficult to control AI and move them from point A to point B. Players nowadays are also more accepting of more complex control schemes, and so long as there are proper menus and it doesn't feel like you are jumping through hoops to get the AI to do what you want, this might make for a fun and interesting experience. The draw for every game to be open world has kind of been fading in recent years. It would make for a nice change of pace of having each zone blacked out until you unlock them later on. Each specific zone can feel polished and have plenty of side missions and short stories that could be told. Adding a new zone or two 5 or 6 months down the line could also be a possibility, as well as opening up sites that are closed off in other areas. It may just be nostalgia talking, but it seems like map designers and overall development thrives when they're given a boundary, instead of trying to spread missions on a blank canvas of a map. It only makes sense to try that again here, in a tactical game where every building and outpost can serve an actual purpose, instead of simply being a waypoint on your minimap. I can't speak for others, but I'm really looking forward to other development teams work on new tactical games that are inspired by Escape from Tarkov. To be clear, I do not want an EFT clone, far from it. Warzone's DMZ mode is missing the few things I want from that experience, and it may not be a popular take, but DMZ feels boring and empty to me. I feel most of that comes from there being no cutscenes or actual story progression, but it also feels like you're doing the same thing over and over again, but in the same section of the map as well. DMZ, in short, is a list of side missions where you unlock cosmetics and a new operator skin from time to time. I would love to see something closer to a Ghost Recon game, but with these added risks. Mixing the two of having two squads work in tandem or on their own, and the new of complex weapon crafting and the possibility of losing some gear. Forcing you to buy a replacement or repair it or recover it from a side mission. These ideas aren't that hard to come up with and adds more dynamic gameplay. All of this popping up in my head by reworking one feature that was used in a game from 2004. I know it's easy to trash talk games from the outside, but this is part of that reason why. When you have longtime fans of a franchise, they tend to remember what used to be in these games. And when the next and newest title doesn't have it, they don't understand the removal or change. As it seems like these devs didn't look at, much less play the older games, but instead are making something new from the ground up that barely resembles the original experience. It may not be the developers, I usually try to make them last on the list of blame, as it can very well be the project lead, upper management, or the publisher that's stopping some of these ideas from seeing the light of day. It's not to say my own ideas will work well out of the box, or that I'm smarter than everyone else, but I would love to see these companies look at their library of games and see what was good and unique, and try to rework some of these features into a modern day game. With all that said, let me know what you guys think about this idea, as well as anything else you would like to see in a tactical shooter. Until then, I am Mr. Rain, and I will see you next time.